Hi, it's Alicia from the Pretty Brown Eyed Reader. I was tagged by Marina at Young Black and Gifted to do the nonfiction on Booktube tag. So that's what I'm going to do today. So the first question of the tag is, how much nonfiction do you read? I usually read one nonfiction book a month. Second question, what kind of nonfiction videos do you want to make on Booktube? Maybe more book reviews of African American writers of nonfiction would be the only thing that I could think that I would want to do. I haven't done anything specific toward nonfiction, no more than participating in Nonfiction November. So, what is your favorite subgenre of nonfiction? I would say that is memoirs. Biographies generally take the whole lifespan of a person, and memoirs are usually, just an event or one little aspect of their life. This year, the memoirs that I have read that I have really enjoyed were of spouses who lost their significant other and their grieving process. Why I have been fascinated with this, I don't know, but that is the subgenre the subgenre of the subgenre that I have been into this year. And another favorite type of nonfiction I like is cookbooks. And my sister and I actually did a video on this channel about #ReadSoLit cookbooks that talks about different African American writers of cookbooks and what you can learn in them. So that's another favorite of mine, is to read cookbooks. I can't cook worth a darn, but I love reading cookbooks. So the next question is favorite nonfiction book. Now, a bookworm, we can't never have just one favorite. So I have two that I want to talk about, and that's Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. Lots of people have talked about it on BookTube. It was a book that my book club did over the course of 2 months, and it follows three African Americans and their journey during the Great Migration. And she writes it in a way that hooks you as a reader. It's not like you're just getting a whole bunch of facts. You're getting these people's personal life, and it's written in a narrative that is very engaging. And of course, the second one is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. It's fascinating to learn about someone from a different country, and Trevor being from South Africa. I was just so intrigued by his upbringing and how similar it was to an American South upbringing, And I've read it in print, and then I also listened to it in audio, and both ways are fascinating. Next question. What do you think keeps people from wanting to read more nonfiction? I think people have a misconception about nonfiction, that it is like a history book or a textbook that is very dry reading. And a very good nonfiction writer will still make you want to turn every page and find out what is happening in the story. Just because it's more of a factual thing, it's not something that a world that's created in the writer's mind, doesn't mean that they can't bring that story to life in an engaging manner. So, what do you like about nonfiction? I like to learn. So, nonfiction just captures my attention. Next question. What's a nonfiction book you read because of BookTube? Well, I would think The Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann would be the one that comes to mind the most. And that is about the murders of the Osage Indians, and how those murders brought forth the beginning of the FBI. And that was very fascinating, because it's a part of history that you're not going to really hear about, because nobody wants to admit that this stuff happened. And then the fact that those murders are one of the reasons why we had to have a FBI, a federal investigative source, because people can't do it on the local level and won't do it on the local level. Anyway, I ain't going to get started on that. But that is a good book. The next question. Best nonfiction book you've read lately. So, I'll think about what I've read this year. Elizabeth Alexander, The Light of the World. And Elizabeth Alexander is a poet. She spoke at President Obama's first inauguration. She did a poem there. And so she lost her husband. So that's one of the memoirs I was talking about earlier. And the way she writes about the death, the grieving process, it's so beautiful. And I just got so engaged, and I learned so much about her husband's native country, his experience of coming to America and how they met, and just, it was just so beautiful. I mean, I was just grieving for her, but the way she talked about it is just very moving. And another good nonfiction book that I've read recently is The Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. It's something I had put off for a long time, and I've heard people every year during his celebrations quote it, and I just wanted to hear it and read it for myself. And so that was very good, and it's just absolutely amazing how much of what he spoke about all those years ago from Birmingham Jail are still relevant today in 2020. Another subject I ain't gonna get off on today. Next question. What are some of your nonfiction reading goals? Well, I don't really have any nonfiction reading goals. Just, I just want to continue to read. But in the past, I have had a nonfiction reading goal, and that was to read the biographies and memoirs of comedians. I find that comedians, they have an analytical mind because most of them their comedy is born out of pain, and so they see the world in a different manner. And so that's probably an old goal I may go back and add to my reading goals one day. So I would do that. But that was something, and I read some really good nonfiction during the 2 or 3 years when I had that as a goal. Very interesting reading. The next question, what is your advice for incorporating more nonfiction into your reading diet? For me, audiobooks have been where I've been able to get my nonfiction in, and especially if the author reads the book, it's very good. And that's been a way that I've been able to get more nonfiction read, because sometimes with fiction on audio, you kind of trying to concentrate too hard about the characters and all that. But with nonfiction being more factual, you just having to remember what was the fact of what they were talking about, and they'll introduce different things. So I like nonfiction on audio. Bonus question. Recommendations of nonfiction booktube channels that I love. A Book Olive, of course. She's one of the hosts of Nonfiction November. A lot of people go to her for nonfiction recommendations. Justin, the Ghost Reader, he does a lot of reviews of nonfiction works. He even has series about nonfiction. So definitely those two channels. For me, one of the places I get a lot of nonfiction recommendations, not a booktube channel, but it is a book related podcast, and that's the Stacks podcast. And Tracy at the Stacks, she is a huge nonfiction lover, and so she's always recommending nonfiction books, and everyone that she's recommended that I've read has been excellent. So I would definitely say listen to that podcast or follow her on Bookstagram. So that is my answers to the nonfiction on Booktube Tag. If you're a lover of nonfiction, please do this tag so that we can all share in our love of nonfiction. Thanks, Marina, for tagging me. Everyone have a great day.